Most people approach clinical databases as if they were standard search engines. They type an entire clinical question into a single bar, hit enter, and wait for the algorithm to surface the right papers. But databases are not built to interpret natural language. When you search this way, you are guessing. This heuristic approach leads directly to missing foundational papers and ultimately claiming a false research gap because the system failed to match your phrasing. A flawed search cascades through an entire project. It causes researchers to select the wrong clinical outcomes, or worse, duplicate a trial that has already been published. Rigorous literature searching requires a deterministic architectural design. Before you can write a defensible clinical protocol, you have to unlearn the habit of casual scrolling. To replace random guessing, we use the Bayyinah literature search pathway. This is a reproducible framework designed to leave a precise, auditable trail. The sequence moves from your initial question, broken down into concepts, expanded into terms, mapped across specific databases, extracting relevant papers into a matrix, and finally, confirming your gap. The primary function of this pathway is translation. It takes the nuance of human clinical thought and converts it into the strict, unforgiving logic required by a database. We are going to execute this exact derivation process, step by step, using a single clinical case study. Consider this clinical question. Among hospitalized adults with type 2 diabetes, is documented hypoglycemia during admission associated with inpatient falls? We do not search that full sentence. We dismantle it into its structural variables. We extract the population, diabetes, the exposure, hypoglycemia, the outcome, falls, and the setting, the hospital environment. Databases cannot parse the grammatical connections between these ideas. They only index discrete data points. Your first task is to capture the language the authors themselves use in their abstracts. These are your keywords. Hypoglycemia might be written as low blood sugar or low blood glucose, but keywords alone are insufficient. Databases utilize strict taxonomies, called MESH in PubMed or Mtree in Embase, to index concepts consistently, regardless of how an individual author phrased it. Very recent papers might not have controlled vocabulary indexing yet, and older papers might lack specific keywords. Relying exclusively on either one guarantees you will miss relevant literature. A comprehensive search architecture must deploy both methods. It captures the exact phrasing authors write, as well as the strict categories databases use to organize. To combine these terms into a query, we use Boolean operators. This is the mandatory grammar of database searching. OR is your expansion operator, grouping synonymous terms together. It tells the database to find any of these variations. AND is your intersection operator, connecting distinct clinical concepts to narrow results to papers containing every linked idea. NOT is your exclusion tool, designed to filter out specific terms from your results. However, using NOT carries a high risk. If a relevant paper briefly mentions excluding gestational diabetes, applying NOT gestational inadvertently hides that exact paper. You must build your search modularly. Synonyms stay inside the individual concept blocks, and your distinct clinical variables are connecting between the blocks. Boolean logic transforms a messy clinical query into a strict mathematical equation that the database algorithm cannot misinterpret. No single database captures the entirety of biomedical evidence. A systematic approach requires translating your logic across multiple platforms. PubMed and Medline serve as the mandatory starting point for general clinical and biomedical literature. To execute the search in PubMed, your strategy requires combining MESH terminology with specific title and abstract tags. You append these tags directly to your terms to restrict where the database looks. Embase acts as your critical expander database, capturing pharmacology and international abstracts Medline might miss. You cannot simply copy your PubMed string here. Embase uses Mtree taxonomy. The logic holds, but the syntax must adapt. The Cochrane-Krentlery and Central have a highly specific role. They isolate randomized controlled trials and synthesize high-level intervention evidence. When running these searches, you will face volume issues. If your results are too vast, add another concept with an AND to increase specificity. If your results are too sparse, remove a concept or expand your synonyms using OR. Never use the free full text filter to narrow your results. The scientific rigor of a trial is entirely independent of whether the journal requires a subscription to read it. Achieving search reproducibility requires speaking the specific dialect of each distinct database environment. Modern search architecture utilizes AI tools, but not as autonomous researchers. AI is a high-speed accelerator for a workflow you fully control. Prompt large language models like ChatGPT to rapidly brainstorm exhaustive synonym lists and draft initial Boolean search strings. Use Semantic Scholar to quickly discover highly cited foundation studies and review the early landscape. Feed key papers into ResearchRabbit. It maps out citation networks, revealing overlooked clusters of relevant literature. Next, run core papers through Elicit. It rapidly extracts specific study variables, formatting them into an evidence table. Upload fully vetted PDFs into NotebookLM. Query the documents directly to pinpoint methodological disagreements. There is one non-negotiable rule in this workflow. AI cannot certify clinical evidence. It hallucinates, misinterprets, and oversimplifies. AI can map the terrain and aggregate data in minutes, but human verification of the original primary source paper remains the sole anchor of academic rigor. The literature search culminates in a structured literature matrix, an organized grid of data extracted from your collection of PDFs. Any systematic review or clinical protocol is invalid if another researcher cannot replicate your exact steps and reach the exact same dataset. You must document your process in a precise search log. This includes the exact date, the specific database used, the full Boolean string, the applied filters, and the total result count. Running your query across PubMed, Embase, and Cochrane mandates 3 separate, distinct entries in that log, reflecting their unique syntax. You can download the free Bayyinah Literature Search Workflow, the AI Prompt Library, and our Literature Matrix template directly at bayyinahresearch.com/resources. If a literature search is not meticulously documented, it cannot be intellectually defended during peer review. To finalize your technique, avoid these search traps. Stop searching with full sentences, relying on single keywords, or ignoring controlled indexing. Do not copy PubMed syntax into Embase. Do not apply exclusionary filters early. And never cite an AI summary without opening the original paper. If your research project is complex, Bayyinah Advisory Support can help you build the search strategy, confirm the gap, prepare the protocol, and organize the analysis to move toward publication. A rigorous project is built methodically. It moves from a precise clinical question, to defined concepts, to database syntax, to the evidence matrix, and finally to confirming the actual research gap. Replace the search for keywords with the architecture of the query.